Alright, so for all of these triangles, we have quite a bit of work to do for one of them, which is letter C. But we're going to go ahead and start these. So for the first one, in order to find x and y, notice that we have a pair. We have an angle and its opposite. So that means that I'm going to be able to use law of sine. So that's going to be sine of 36 over 7 equals, the one I'm looking for, there's sine of 58. We're going to find x first. So sine of 58 over x. Cross multiply and divide, and x will equal 10.099. So in your calculator, what you're going to actually wind up putting in your calculator is 7 times the sine of 58. And the reason why is that because that's cross multiply here. And then when you get x times sine of 36, you're going to actually have to divide by the sine of 36. And again, do not forget to put this parenthesis in right here. That's going to be an important parenthesis to remember, because if you don't, it's going to also take the sine of 36, which will give you an error. Hit enter, and there's the 10.099. Okay, to find y, you're going to set up a similar proportion. You can still use sine of 36. So sine 36 over 7. But this time we're going to use the angle that we don't have right here, which we can conclude by adding together 58 and 36 and subtracting from 180, so that's 86. So we're going to take sine of 86 over y. Again, cross multiply, divide, same thing that we just did, and y is 11.88. Okay. Let's take a look at B. First of all, let's conclude this missing angle here. So that's 105 degrees. 40 plus 35, 75. Subtract from 180 is 105. So to find A and B, I'm going to do the same thing I just did over here. Your first proportion is going to be sine of 105 over 10 equals sine of 40 over B. So B equals, again, doing that same thing, 6.655. So in our calculator, we're going to multiply 10 times the sine of 40, close the parenthesis, divided by the sine of 105, because that's what I multiply the variable with. Hit enter. There's the 6.655. The 4 is going to round up because of the 6. So you can again use the sine of 105 over 10, set it equal to the sine of 35 over A. Again, cross multiply, divide by the sine of 105, and A is equal to 5.938. Alright, C. C we've got a lot of work for. C is probably the one that involves the most work because I have 3 angles to find. So one of those angles I'm going to have to find by the law of cosines. There's no other way to get around it. You're going to have to solve an equation with law of cosines. So the first thing that I'm going to do is set up a law of cosines, and it doesn't matter which angle you solve for first. I'm going to go ahead and solve for c squared first. So, or c first, which means I'm going to start out with c squared. And then I'm going to use not 18. Okay, 18 is what I'm going to put in here for c squared. But let's just go ahead and finish writing out all of the variables minus 2ab cosine, and that c angle is going to match. So c squared is the opposite of c, angle c, so this is 18 squared. A squared is the opposite of a, so that's 37 squared. Plus b squared is going to be 43 squared. Minus 2 times a times b times the cosine of c. Now this is where a lot of students are making mistakes. Go ahead and simplify 18 squared. So 18 squared, when you put it in your calculator, is going to be 324. Simplify 37 squared plus 43 squared. Now why did I not do the minus? Well, the minus, this is all being multiplied together. So you cannot break apart and combine all of these. You actually have to combine this and then combine this. So when you do 37 squared plus 43 squared, that will give you 3,000 218. Minus 2 times 37 times 43 will give you 3,182. And that's times the cosine of c. Now, I'm going to solve this like a two-step equation. So I'm going to first subtract 3,218 from both sides. That will leave me with negative 2,894 equals negative 3,100. Those canceled, so I'm just going to bring down the 3,182 cosine of c. Now I have to divide by negative 3,182. And then the cosine of c is equal to that ratio, 2894 over 3182. And the reason why I didn't simplify is because I want to make sure I round at the end, which means I want to take the cosine inverse of this whole fraction. So again, I'm going to take the inverse cosine of both sides, so that'll leave me with c over here. And then in my calculator, again, I want to do second cosine, that's the inverse cosine, 2894 divided by 3182, and you get angle C is 24.565. Now, that's only angle C. We now need to use law of sines to find, let's go with angle B. We'll just go backwards, CBA. So for angle B, I need to use law of sines. So again, now I have angle C, so I'm going to use that as my pair. So it'll be sine of 24.565 over side C, which is 18, equals sine of angle B is what we're looking for next, divided by side B, which is 43. And now I'm going to get that sine B is equal to 43 times the sine of 24.565 divided by the 18 there. Cross multiply, divide. So now, in order to get B, I'm going to have to do inverse sine of this whole fraction. So in my calculator, you want to do second sine, 43 times the sine of 24.565 divided by, and that of course was all of that, divided by 18. So that's all you put in, and then B is equal to 83.276. Okay, so now for A, I just have to add these and subtract from 180. So angle A is going to be equal to 72.159. And again, that's because all the angles add up to 180. If I know two of them, I can just add them together and subtract, two of them, I know C and B, add them together and subtract from 180. So that whole problem involved three different steps. Law of cosines, which is the longest, then law of sines, and then finally just subtraction from 180. Okay, let's move on to D. For this one, I can again conclude this top angle here is 72 degrees. That means this is an isosceles triangle, which means one of the sides is going to be pretty easy, because if this is 72 and it's 8.8, I know that 72 and G is also going to be equal to 8.8. So now it's just a matter of finding H. Okay, so to find H, I'm just going to use law of sines. So I can use either pair. I'll use sine of 72 over 8.8 equals sine of 36, the other angle, over my missing side, which is H. Cross multiply, divide by 8.8, and you get 5.439. And then finally for E, this was all, let's divide this over here. Okay, so now for E, I'm going to again use law of sines because I have an opposite pair and I have a side. One thing here though is that I need to find this angle before I can find M. So I'm going to have to use law of sines actually twice in this problem. So the first time I use law of sines, I'm going to use sine of 40 over 82, And then sine of my missing angle, we'll just call it theta here, because I need to find that missing angle. So sine of theta over 18. When I solve that one, that'll give me my missing angle theta. So in this case, theta equals 8.111. Now the reason why I needed to find that was because now I can take and add these two and subtract from 180 and find this angle up here. Okay, so we'll call this angle M because it's opposite of side M. So I'm going to again use sine of 40 over 82. And then if I add those two and subtract from 180, angle M is actually going to equal 131.89. So sine of 131.89 over side M. Cross multiply, divide by the sine of 40, and M is going to be about 94.966. Okay, so that one was a little bit more involved, but you could just use law of sines twice. Alright, let's go on to the last couple problems here on the trig review. And really these are just using your special right triangles. So if this is 2 and this is 2, you know this is a 45, all of these are 45, 45, 90 triangles. So your hypotenuse is then 2 root 2. And then if this is this one side of a 45, this is also 2 root 2. And then 2 root 2 times root 2 is going to be 2 times 2 times 2, which is 4. And then if this is 4, this is also 4. So that means this is 4 root 2. 4 root 2 times 2 is going to be 8. So if this is 8, this is 8 root 2. I'm sorry. This is 4 root 2, and 4 root 2 times root 2 is 8. And then over here, these are you have to use Pythagorean theorem. So if this is 2 and this is 2, it's also isosceles. So you know this is also a 45, 45, so you could just do 2 root 2. And then if this is 2 root 2 and this is 2, you could again use Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side, and this is going to be 2 root 3. And if this is 2 root 3 and this is 2, this is going to be 2 root 4, which is basically 2 times 2, which is 4. And this is 4 and this is 2. Pythagorean theorem, again, this is 2 root 5. So you could do Pythagorean theorem to test all of those out, but that is going to be the relationship. Alright, this concludes the trig videos, so I'm going to be doing the vectors next.